I said, well, one of the 8. And I said, why are you doing this? And he told me to go ask the barista, which I thought was a very interesting response. Like, no accountability or responsibility to explain
No.
why I have to do this. Go ask the barista. Is that how this works? Is she your boss? Like, she just tells you what
So
to do?
expensive for someone that you pay his paychecks.
Right. Go
You
ask the
pay
barista.
taxes that fund his paychecks.
Yep. So I said, oh, okay. Because that's not de-escalating the situation. You were telling me that it's okay for me to go and confront someone, which I did. So I said, all right. I walked up to the barista and I said, why'd you call the cops? Melissa, her chest and her face just immediately flushed red. Like, it was like fire.
Wow.
She kind of stuttered and she was like, oh, I really can't say, in a very fake damsel in distress type of voice. Kind of like Amy Cooper. Remember when Amy Cooper called
Yep.
the same
Change
thing?
that tone of voice, and you're putting on an act.
You're putting on an act. So I was like, oh, I can say I watched the entire thing happen from beginning to end.
Mm.
And I said, did you feel like your life was in danger? And she ignored me and she walked down the Starbucks aisle. So I followed her and I asked her, I was like, did you feel like you were being threatened? And she completely ignored me. She wouldn't even look at me. So I took a step back. I yelled at her. I said, you're a fucking coward. Went back to my table. I'm packing up all my stuff. And all these white women staring at me. And I remember one of the girls I'm friends with now, Jody, I remember her lips started quivering. And I was like, oh my God, if she cries, I'm going to cry. I looked to my right, and this white girl was like looking at me, kind of like, okay, well, what are we going to do now? So I'm packing up my stuff, and she starts packing up her stuff too. Like, yeah, like I'm going to leave too. And the only other person that day in the Starbucks to address the Starbucks was my partner, Melissa. The only other person. She stood up. We made eye contact from across the Starbucks. And she says something along the lines of, I was just here. I come here. I sit here for hours. I don't buy a coffee. No one ever asks me to leave, and you know why. So we basically staged a walkout, and I remember I asked the cops again, do you realize that you're arresting 2 dudes for not buying a coffee? And one of them was like, well, we weren't being disrespectful, were we? And I said, you're arresting 2 dudes for not buying a coffee. And they turned their backs to me. They literally turned around and put their backs to me. And I was like, I'm losing my mind.
But you weren't though.
Right. Watch them be handcuffed behind their back, escorted into a cop car. I remember like doing one of these at them because I couldn't get them out, but I was like, I see you. I don't know what to do. They were taken to the police station. They were there for like 12 hours. And it went viral. And I didn't have Twitter or Facebook at the time. But people were like texting me and calling me, hey, Michelle, the thing that you told me about is blowing up.
Right, and you can hear your voice in the video.
Right. And I didn't know. I mean, when they were censoring Melissa, so all the media was like hounding Melissa, hounding her, trying to get her interviews. And I saw it happening and I wasn't going to say anything. But to be honest, I was like, typical. They're censoring the white person when I knew no one would have known what was going on had I not said anything. So fortunately, she tracked me down. So she literally stalked me. She found me somehow, tracked me down, and she was like, we need to meet. Everyone's approaching me. You're the one that said something. This is just ridiculous. We met up the next Monday and we were like, what are we going to do? Now that the world is paying attention to what racism actually can look like today, what are we going to do about it? Mm-hmm. And literally it's continuing that conversation for everyone to address their own biases. You know, people just didn't, if we hadn't said anything, no one in that Starbucks would have realized that they were witnessing a blatant act of racial discrimination happening right in front of their faces.
Yep.
Everyone watching this live right now, you have probably seen something like this, but you didn't quite recognize it.
Absolutely.
So, you know, and then it was kind of cool because people started waking up, and after that you saw a string of videos of white people calling the cops on black people for living their lives. It was the girl selling water, the boy mowing the lawn, another guy moving into his apartment, which I don't even know what that call would possibly sound like. Like, there's a guy furnishing an apartment for free. Like, what? Like, like how is that a 911 call? You know, and 2 years later, we're still seeing it. We're seeing the Amy Coopers. We're still seeing these things happening, but at least people are a bit more aware.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to create just this collective consciousness that we have to keep having these conversations. We have to talk to one another. Because racism is not going to end unless we have these conversations. It's just not going to happen. Racism, I'm going to say, it's not a black problem.
No.
Racism was created by white people hundreds of years ago. It's unfortunate that we are here, but these are the cards that we were dealt. And if we don't do anything about it, what message are we sending out to the world?
Yep. It's just going to stay the same as it has for the past 500 years.
Literally.
And the irony about being an anti-racist is that we have to acknowledge, I think, our races and acknowledge that it's a white person problem and that there is nothing wrong with the black community or black people at all. It is something everyone has to look inside themselves as a white person to amend, to change.
And that, you know, it's that shame and that guilt. And again, the very strategic, I mean, let's be honest, racism is smart.
Yeah.
It is.
And it's adaptable.
Very.
It is really like scarily malignant.
Yes, it is very, very easy. It is, I mean, race isn't even real.
No.
It's not even real. Like, do you think a zebra looks at another zebra and they're like, yeah, man, that zebra, I don't know. He's got too many stripes. I don't know about him. No. Like, there hasn't been one human being on this face of this planet who's ever going to be identical to me or you for the rest of humanity or from the beginning of humanity.
Right.
That's the beauty of us.
Yeah.
But when you can, I mean, like literally it was created for control and for wealth. And it's the oldest trick in the book. It's divide and conquer. Divide and conquer.
It's created for self-interest and power.
That's it. And we're just trying to get people to understand that we all have biases. Listen, when I see a white guy walking down the street that's bald with tattoos, I get worried that he's in the KKK.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I have to talk to myself and be like, Michelle, what's wrong with you? You don't know. Actually, I don't know if my friend's watching. My friend Nick, he literally fits that description, and he's like one of the coolest guys ever, and like only dates black girls. So like, you're like, you know, you realize that that's a bias that you have from the media portraying what a white supremacist looks like.
Yeah.
And you have to talk to yourself and have those really tough but radically honest conversations and say, where does this thought come from? Why do I believe this? Why is this happening? Because it's not natural for us. It's not like, I mean, when I'm watching a white person experience white fragility, I'm like, that's also trauma. Like look at your reaction, your physical reaction. I mean, you're uncomfortable right now. Mm-hmm. That's not normal.
No, none of
we shouldn't. Yeah, you know, and other people from other countries look at us and they're like, what's going on over there? Because we're very uniquely racist. We're very uniquely, well, South America, Central America, but America, you know, North America, we're not ready to give it up. We're not ready to give up the profiting off of black bodies, which is why they tell you don't talk about race. What do you mean don't talk about race? Because what's been going on since 1619 is the same thing that's going on now. It just looks different. My boyfriend says it's they've innovated it. They've innovated racism.
Absolutely. It just redefines itself every time it has to. When like one step of progress has been made, maybe in the right direction towards anti-racism, someone has to come in and save what they're trying to maintain.
Exactly.
I mean, your story is so. I watched the video when it happened, and also, my mom was a barista.
Yeah.
Single mom, and I cannot. First of all, my mom never would have done anything like that, but it did hit home for me also because everyone drinks Starbucks. Everyone goes to Starbucks, and I remember back then being so upset by it, and also knowing back then too that whatever sensitivity training Starbucks did, how long did they shut down for?
A day.
A day.
One day.
I knew back then that's not going to do anything.
Nope. And it didn't. Did you see what they did recently?
Yes. And that was actually an uncomfortable conversation concerning race that I had to have with my family, where with one of my sisters, I was very much disagreeing with her. I didn't want to go there, and I have been boycotting, and I could not believe that they weren't letting people stand up for this. It's just ridiculous. That it goes beyond corporate bullshit.
It does. It does. When I saw that, I was like, yo, because we had actually tried to work with them in the beginning, and they blew us off
Of course they
many
did.
times. They blew us off. They were like, they got on a phone call with us reluctantly. They're like, well, we're doing our own things. You know, we hired Robin DiAngelo, but yet 2 years later, you told people they couldn't wear Black Lives Matter pins as baristas. Um, and then, to be honest, they actually came up with this statement. They actually lied about us in the media, and I called them out, and they immediately got onto a phone call with us. I was like, I just want to make sure that the public knows what actually happened, because they said something along the lines of, we've been trying to work with Michelle and Melissa, but we can't come to an agreement yet. I was like as if we were being difficult. I was like, yo, Melissa, did you see this? And I'm like, no, you guys literally told us that you're doing your own thing, and you just didn't want to work with us at this time. It wasn't important to you. And they said that we hadn't had an agreement yet. And I was like, okay. So I knew that the whole closing down stores was just a PR stunt. I mean, clearly, why wouldn't you want to work with the two girls that, I mean, I didn't have any ill will towards them. It wasn't you, it was a barista. Like, she was not the CEO. I understand that. Like, so at the beginning, I wasn't necessarily upset with Starbucks, so I just assumed you would want to work with us. But then I found out later on that apparently she was from like middle of nowhere, Ohio. Why would you put her in one of the blackest cities in America and think that she was going to be racially competent enough to serve? And you have to have these conversations.
I doubt they even thought of that.
Exactly.
I doubt they even thought.
So here we are 2 years later, and there was Ahmaud Arbery and then Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and so many others. And, our count grew by literally over 300,000 in like 2 weeks. So we're just super grateful that people are finally understanding what we've been trying to say for 2 years, which is you need to educate yourself. Because if you grew up like I did, I went to an all-white school. I learned that much. I learned about Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and Jackie Robinson, as if they were the only 3 Black people that ever existed.
Yeah. Where'd you grow up?
Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Like Hershey's chocolate.
Yes, we were the only the only chocolate like in the town. There was like 3 families, and it was tough, man. It was confusing because I was also African, so I experienced racism, but I didn't understand why. I'm like, I don't understand why. And it wasn't until my 20s that I started diving into and actually educating myself, because it was too painful for me to even look at. I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to think about, I didn't want to know the truth, to be honest, because I knew it was going to be too painful for me. And all my friends were white. I dated white guys. And when you experience that much racism, you internalize it. And I was trying to, at one point, separate myself from the Black community and be like, oh, no. I'm not like that. I'm African. I'm different. But I recognized that white people were nicer to me when they found that I was African. It was, oh, well, now you're exotic. Now you're different. And I think another reason is that they didn't have slavery mirroring back at them. They felt more comfortable with me because they didn't have any guilt. They could look at me and talk to me, 0 guilt.
No shame involved.
Exactly. And when I realized that worked, I just went with that. And it was a really shameful time in my life, a few years. And I wouldn't have been able to admit this to you 5 years ago, because I was still dealing with that. I still had a lot of shame around the fact that I was trying to separate myself from being Black American. And, but I was born in America and I'm Black. So I'm a Black American.
Yeah. Some
people don't know that I am African. You would never know that. And I need white people to realize that, when someone tells me I don't have any biases, I'm like, you're lying, homie. I grew up with you. And if I can have biases against Black Americans, what? You know how confusing that is? Like, I'm like, yo, Michelle, that was a racist thought about Black. Where is that coming from? But when you grow up in that area and you're being told you're an Oreo, you're not really like them, you're like white on the outside, you're white on the inside, you're like, oh, well, it must be true. There must be something different. And I didn't have enough education to know differently until I had my own racist interaction with a police officer when I was 23. They literally thought that I was a thieving sex worker. Literally walked into a club, 5 police officers, in bulletproof vests with crime unit on their vests. I'm skinny. I'm like 117 pounds right now. Back then, I was like 112. So they're walking in, and I'm like, what's going on? They asked me to come outside, and I go outside with them, and they're literally, one dude in particular is treating me like I am this woman. I was livid, but I was terrified. I literally started peeing myself.
Oh my God.
I literally started, I remember trying to hold it because I was like, what's going to happen to me? Am I going to go to jail? I don't understand what's happening. I was like, I work at Calvin Klein and Nationwide Insurance. Like, I don't know.
And what, did you like plucked you out of
Yes.
the club?
Yes. And it was so, and I remember saying to the cop, I said, you can't treat me like this. This isn't okay. And I remember he walked back, got in my face and goes, this is your fault. And I said, and that's when it clicked for me. I said, my fault for being black, for fitting the description. A white female police officer actually grabbed me and she like pulled me to the side and she told me to go report him the next day because she's seen him be racist before. And I was super grateful, and I went and I did it, and I went to the police station, and I was like 23, went to the police station, and I reported him. They're like, oh yeah, we've had complaints about him before. I'm like, oh, so then why is the lead officer in an investigation when the suspect is black?
Yeah.
If you know. And then later on in the years, I thought to myself, why did she do anything in the moment? Why did she pull me aside and almost whisper that to me? Why wouldn't she have stopped him in the middle of his clearly racist act?
Yeah.
And do something?
It would have been much more effective if she had. But even then, she probably would have been punished.
She would have. I have a couple of friends who are police officers right now, and they say trying to fight racism in the police force is very lonely, and it's actually scary because you do face retaliation. You could get you could be put on death duty. You don't know what's going to happen to you if you're a cop and speak out against, because there's so much racism in the force that it's almost part of who they are.
Absolutely.
Which is why she had to pull me aside and say it quietly.
Jesus. So they didn't arrest you. She kind of dissolved.
No. Well, they realized I wasn't her. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, and the kid was, the guy was there. Apparently, so the situation was this white kid, he like took home this black sex worker, and when he woke up, all his money was gone. And before the cops showed up, he actually got right up to my face. I remember thinking to myself, I was like, what are you doing? He thought I was her. I'm like, how do you sleep with a woman and not know that I'm not her? Like,
I'm
what?
sorry, I'm laughing.
Yes. He thought I was her.
Wow.
I was like, dude, you fugly. I would never. What are you talking about? What? I'm not her. Yeah, he thought I was her. They all just thought I was her. And the cops just believed him.
Of course they did. I'm so glad. I mean, I feel like you were lucky that you realized you weren't her.
I was incredibly lucky.
Damn, I'm sorry you went through that.
It's all right. You know, I can laugh about it now, but at the time I was like, and you know what? And again, another situation where no one around me said anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like white people, like we got like you know, I mean, look at what's happening right now. We just had the largest civil rights movement in history.
Yep.
And that's because white people got off the couch and came out in the streets with us.
Woke up.
They woke up.
And everyone's been using the word woke for years now, but I don't know if it was truly an awakening until this moment.
Beautiful. Absolutely. To me, like I had chills. I cried throughout, you know, watching protests, because this is what solidarity means. This is what it is. This is us demanding justice and demanding peace. And, you know, the police brutality that you were seeing against a lot of these protesters, I hope people understand and realize that that's how much they want to protect their right to do whatever they want to us.
Yep.
I don't think
it's like a last dying breath hanging on to something that everyone else is aware needs to be drastically changed.
Yeah, I don't think that white people were anticipating being tear gassed when you're not doing anything, being tear gassed when you don't have any weapon. That's just like a little itty bitty snippet of what the Black experience has been like. You do nothing and you are attacked. I mean, like on a very literal way. And I'm so grateful. I hope that we can. I felt a little bit of. It feels like there's a little bit of slowness happening. Like it's quieting down a little teeny bit, but our account is still growing. So I'm grateful, and I'm hoping that people are continuing to do their work and educating themselves and looking inward. And I'm seeing a lot of people wanting to quickly jump to do things. They want to jump and create a page or a website, and I'm like, nah, you just need to relax. And
you need to educate yourself first. Yeah, that's where I'm at now. I mean, I feel like I've been nervous about this conversation too, because I feel like I'm so new to this in my education, and to even learn, like, I feel like I don't even have the right to call myself an anti-racist yet. But
you're an anti-racist.
I mean, but then I've come to the realization that it's every decision. It's second by second that you are making these decisions, and you're looking in the mirror, even like you're saying, in every thought that you have, or if you check yourself and you recognize something that doesn't feel right, you can do one of two things, and you can be an anti-racist about it, and you can do nothing and thereby be a racist, or be overtly racist and just think that what you're saying is the truth. And that's been, I mean, my awakening sadly came late, and I was not willfully ignorant. It was not like I didn't know that this was going on. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Denver, Colorado, in a suburb, and very white, very white. I can count on one hand how many Black kids were in my high school. But then at the same time, I was not completely ignorant to things, because my dad worked for the professional sports teams in Denver, for the Nuggets and the Broncos. So I was at least exposed to Black people. And athletes, no matter how much money they make, are still victims of racism.
Did you see it? Did you see any racism towards the athletes, or did they talk about it?
I did, because I was so young, but I'm sure my dad did.
Yeah.
He's a doctor for the teams, so he worked pretty closely with a lot of those guys. And I'm sure my dad saw stuff when they were traveling, they were going to other cities, when I don't know. So I didn't, it wasn't like I just had a white lens over my eyes. But like you, my schooling did not really cover it. We read like Maya Angelou, and read Beloved, and we, like, my classic literature class, we at least had Black writers that we read syllabus. But history, same as you, Martin Luther King, usually just Black History Month, Rosa Parks, Jackie Robinson, and then like a villainized version of Malcolm X.
I thought it was bad.
I thought it was so bad. I thought they painted him to be a terrorist in the history books.
Yep.
And it was very much like his methods and his movement, and we didn't watch any of his speeches.
Watching now, you're like, oh my gosh, he's so. To me, he was like an academic, yeah. I'm like, really? How? Yep.
And his journey was so beautiful. How he realized what he realized and what he came to learn. Like, I've since read his biography, and it's so moving. And then I moved out of Colorado, and I went to college in New York City, and that was like massive culture. Like going from white suburbia, the big city, and I loved it. I loved it so much. And I witnessed a lot on the subway.
Yep.
I witnessed, and I don't even know if I would clock it, but I wouldn't. I think I would just brush it off and be like, I guess that's just the way things are. I mean, police and pigs and whatever. What can I do about it?
Right.
And And I had a bit of more of an education in college. I took like a cultural psychology class that I loved. I read James Baldwin. I loved him, and I love his books and his essays, but it still wasn't enough to get me off my ass and show up. Until recently, I think I was so heartbroken by everything that was happening with Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor. And then when George Floyd happened, I heard from my friend who is on Supergirl with me, McCod Brooks, and we were texting as a group text. We have a cast group chat, and he was not doing okay. And I called him, and we had this amazing conversation, and he really was the one that opened my eyes, I think, to how I had been claiming to be neutral about it. And saying, well, I'm not racist, but like not actively doing anything against racism.
Right.
And I had known him for 5 years by this time, and worked with him very closely, and seen things that he had gone through at work.
Yep.
And was always, and like would talk to him about it when I would see things that he would go through, or he would tell me things that would happen, or things that people would say to him that were overtly racist, that were not great. And I would obviously acknowledge that he had gone through those things, and hate that my friend was experiencing these things, but I was not showing up, and I was not standing up for him, and I was not helping to amplify his voice, and even just this last year, I mean, lots of things that I've witnessed, I've not done anything about. And I claimed it was because, well, I'm not Black, so I don't feel like I can talk about this. I don't feel like I can talk about this because I don't know the feeling of being Black in America. I don't know. I just made excuses.
Of years.
Yeah.
And it's never been turned around on white people themselves.
Yep.
And so I was, well, that's a Black problem. That's a Black problem. Black people should be the one to fix it.
Oh.
If it were up to us, we would already have equality.
Yeah. Yeah. So it took.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
It just took my friend telling me, you've got to take responsibility for this, and like, and you have, and he made me realize like that I do have this platform, and if I do care, like I was telling him that I did in my heart, why wouldn't I spread that?
Yeah.
Did
he call you out personally, or was he saying things that made you see?
He was saying things that made me see.
Yeah.
He was saying things that made me see, and he called me out personally for an entirely separate situation that he wasn't involved in, but that he like knew about. Even more opened my eyes. So, and after that conversation, it was past point of no return. Like I could not see anything else anymore. And my husband and I, like almost, I think a lot of people did, just like went into this hole, and we're glued to the TV, we're glued to our phones, we're just like so passionately wanting to be involved, like you were saying, like everyone's just like, what can we do, what can we do, what can we do? And I'm actually pregnant right now, so that was like yeah.
Wait, does anyone know that?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Congratulations.
Yeah. But thank you. But it added this other layer of like, Jesus, I can't let this be. I have to do this for my son. And yes. I have to change myself. I have to look at myself. I have to look in the mirror. My husband has to do the same. We have to look at each other. We have to look at white families and talk to them. Like, we have to do something so that when he's here, by the way, we're still going to be working on this and learning about it.
Yep.
But when he gets here, and when I'm already like trying to teach him. I'm already talking to my belly about this.
Yeah. Yes.
You
It's
know,
so interesting. That happened. The same thing happened to my best friend. She had a daughter, and that's what woke her up too. She was like, I need to be an example for my daughter. I need the world. I need to try and change the world how it's best I can for my little girl. And I consider my friend's daughter my niece. Like, she makes it a point that like I see her often, because by age 3, kids are making sense of race.
oh
By
yeah,
age 3, kids understand that it's in this country it's better to have white skin than dark skin.
the doll test video. Ugh. Anyone who
That's,
has that video needs to watch it.
you need to watch it. It just goes to show it's never too early. Talk
No,
to your belly, girl. It is never too early.
we absorb everything. And when I watched that doll test video, the first thought I had was, I don't know if I would have done anything different. I don't know. I absolutely would have said the same things that those kids did.
Yes, I have to have a talk with my niece, my cousin's daughter. We have to talk to her about, you're a pretty brown girl. Because she has started saying things, and she's 3. She started saying things like, I like my white dolls better. I don't like my black dolls. And we're like, where is that coming from? We're a family of Africans. You're mostly around African people, but she goes to an international school in Ghana, and a lot of her friends are mixed or white, because it's a kind of a but not high ends. What do you call it? It's what's the word for like elite? I don't know. I kind of like an elite school. So it's a lot of foreign people, a lot of Lebanese, a lot of Europeans, and there aren't too many dark skinned brown girls in the class like her. And so by already we're having to talk to her about loving your black skin at 3. She wants the Elsa doll. She doesn't want the brown dolls.
Ugh. I
You know, it's heartbreaking, but as long as racism exists, we have work to do.
Yeah. And I do feel like I think that also racism has created, like you were saying, it's so abnormal for everyone involved, including the people that are conditioned, the white people that are fooled into thinking that they're superior. It like created this massive mental health crisis.
You know what? I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said it has created a mental health crisis, because I desperately needed a therapist when I was younger. Desperately needed to talk to somebody about what my mind was going through, what I was going through about my relationship with my blackness.
Yeah. Your identity.
Literally, I mean, it's why right now I'm doing racial identity coaching, because I'm realizing that for me it was it was confusing, because I would look at myself in the mirror and I would like what I saw, but like just moving out through the world, I didn't feel comfortable. You know, like people staring at you, and it makes you so subconscious. It's like, is my hair okay? My dress okay? My walk, my talk? Why are these white people just staring at me all the time? And even for white people now, like what you're going through, it's, you know, coming to terms with the fact that you've been complacent and not done anything, or thinking about, okay, who am I without whiteness? If you took my race away, who are you? Are you Toni Morrison said that. Who are you without your whiteness? Are you good? Are you still good?
Sit down on your pillow at night and feel good about how you treated people and what you did that day.
Yep.
It's that simple.
And you know what? It's I appreciate you saying that you came into the game late, but you know, Melissa, she's a middle-aged white woman. I won't say her age, but she's a middle-aged, she could literally be my mother. And I'm 33. So she taught in inner city schools in the 80s. She even started her own anti-racism group back in the 80s. And she says that she didn't actually wake up until Starbucks.
Wow.
she didn't realize that she was actually performing white saviorism. She thought that she was like, her presence was literally helping these black and brown kids.
Yeah, like almost an assimilationist attitude.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I'm black, and I didn't start to look into these things until a few years ago. I'm black, and I didn't want to look at it because I knew that once I did that, my relationships were going to change. I lost my best friend, one of my best friends of 26 years after I became an activist.
Wow.
He doesn't talk to me anymore. And to
My
me,
God.
nothing is different about me. I'm literally the same clumsy, goofy, whatever, Michelle. I mean, like crazy, whatever. I'm the same. I just talk about race a little bit more. I just talk about my experiences that I don't think she understood. I think it was just too much for her. She didn't see me as black until I actually started talking about the things that have been going on.
And
I
that's
think
so dangerous too. Like that kind of color blindness, that's a thing, and we just have to, we can't do that right now.
we can't
We
do it. I
have
want
to,
you to see my color.
yeah. It we should be looking at every culture, every skin color. We should be looking at how everything intersects in terms of gender, in terms of like a queer space, in terms of like we need to be looking at everything and honoring all of it and respecting all of it and educating ourselves about all of it.
All of it.
Because by the way, that's only going to enrich us as a humanity as a
I mean,
whole.
look at your experience. You went from Colorado to New York, where it's incredibly diverse, and you loved it. I mean, diversity is a beautiful thing. Like
Yeah.
I love. I mean, I've been quite a few places. I've been to Spain, Costa Rica, Canada, Ghana, the UK, the
Mm-hmm.
islands. I wish people, I wish people embraced more where they came from,
Mm-hmm.
and brought that culture with them. Because what white people I think sometimes forget is that when they came to this country, they weren't immediately accepted. If you weren't from England, you weren't accepted immediately accepted. If you were Irish, if you were Italian, some Italians were lynched.
Yeah.
They were treated like black people. You had to give up part of your culture wherever you came from in Europe. You had to literally give up all of your culture just to enter this exclusive white club and get the same treatment as the English people.
Yeah.
You had to leave part of your identity behind.
Yeah. You had to assimilate to what white European men thought were.
Yes, you had to assimilate. We unfortunately we can try our best to assimilate, but we can't do it because the skin color is that's the barrier.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes I wish that way people would do maybe do a little bit more research, like where are your ancestors from? Check that out. Like that's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Please go learn that and learn what they ate so I can come over and eat your food because I like eating food from other places. Like, that's cool. And America always talks about being prideful of being this melting pot, but we've never actually accepted people from other places.
No.
We've never actually, it's like you can come from somewhere else as long as you assimilate.
Yeah.
And now, you know,
Yeah.
and now
Because
what we have
white
is
body is what America has defined as the body of America.
that is what they wanted. They almost wiped out an entire race culture of people. And then they brought over another race culture of people to literally build their wealth.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just gonna like this like you have to talk about it how it was. The founding fathers were literal white supremacists.
Absolutely.
They all owned slaves.
Did you see that video of the guy in Costco not wanting to wear a mask and his shirt literally says, it says something like in power since 1776.
Yes. What? Like, and I guarantee you, if you said you're racist, he would be like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah. Oh, because that's all racism is. When you are a racist, all you're going to do is deny it.
Totally. I would rather you just be like, "Yeah, I don't like black people." I'd be like, "Thank you for telling me that, so I can avoid you."
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
problem is they don't want to admit it, and that is what is so, uh, it's so scary. Michelle. It's not the white guys that are bald with tattoos walking on the street. It's not them.
No.
It's the baristas. It's the white girl walking her dog. It's the guy in Costco with the weird
Yep.
shirt. You're not know what that shirt means. It's everyday normal looking people. Um, that's why we take an approach from an individual standpoint, because our systems are made up of individual people.
Right.
We're not trying to go for the very top. We're trying to get to individual people who make decisions every single day. I want to make sure that my doctor doesn't have some weird ass myth that Black people can handle pain more, which is still a thing.
That's still, like, have you experienced that?
I haven't, but my sister has.
Oh my God.
My brother has. My brother is a nurse, and unfortunately for these nurses at the Hershey Med Center, they didn't know he was a nurse, and he knew for a fact that he was being straight up neglected. Like, he knew that. My brother pulled out his own IV and walked out of the hospital.
Ah.
He literally pulled it out and walked out because he was being straight up neglected. He was like, I'm a nurse. I know what's going on here.
I mean, that's been very much on my mind, because also the statistics with pregnant Black women, that they're more likely, 3 times more likely to die in childbirth or from pregnancy-related issues. Like, I can't even fathom.
Oh, my boyfriend is, he's like, if you get pregnant, I want you to have a baby at home. Because we don't, his family has gone through some things. His mother has gone through some things that they do not trust the medical system here in this country. They tried to literally take out her uterus before she ever had her kids. He literally wouldn't exist. And then she went to a different hospital, and they were like, we don't know why they told you had to have an emergency hysterectomy. You don't have to do that. And she went on to have 3 healthy boys. And so, and they were African. They didn't really understand what's going on, but they had an inkling. They were like, something feels really off here. That's racism.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to take someone's uterus? Like, what are you going to do with it? Another Henrietta Lacks situation?